Welcome to the latest episode of Tech Man Talks AI. Unfortunately, Ryan, who normally presents this with me, is unwell today, so he's not able to join us. So we're just going to do a quick overview of another one of the agents that we've got at our disposal with Microsoft Copilot, which is the Researcher Agent, and we're going to take you into that and just show you how all that works. So, to just set the scene a little bit, the researcher tool is an agent, again, that has a specific job. We're going to go and ask it to do a much more deep dive on for it to generate the content that we want back. Normally, if you've used things like Copilot or ChatGPT, you might put a generic prompt in there and then it would come back and respond to you very quickly, within a few seconds or a minute at best. With Researcher, what we're going to do is the more information we give it in the prompt, what actually will the AI tool will do is then go away and search on that. It will look at what you've asked it to do, and it will generate a report. And as we'll see, for many, many pages, depending on what you've asked it to do. And it will take, probably 10, 15, 20 minutes if needs be. But typically, I would say around about 5 to 8 minutes, you will get a response from this. But it's going deeper. It's looking at it. You can actually see the thought process that the AI tool is using to generate this and the way it's generated the data. But then we'll come back with a much more in-depth piece of content for you. So I'm going to dive in, but from my point of view, obviously I work in marketing, sales and marketing. And from a marketing perspective, the researcher tool I find is invaluable. We want to work on data for what we're selling. We want to look at what the market is like. We might be branching out into a new region or into a new industry sector. And I want to research that before we make a decision on how we're going to go to market or how we're going to, what campaigns we're going to run to address some of these problems. So what I've got on the screen now, I'm in Copilot, as you can see across in my browser, the Microsoft 365 Cloud.Microsoft. And what I've clicked on this time is one of these agents down the side, which is the researcher. And when you click on that, you get, again, it looks like a normal chat screen. But I've put a prompt in here, and then I've done it in advance because otherwise we're waiting for the deep dive to take place. But as you can see, I'm a researcher for a company similar to Gartner. Gartner is a research organization that produces lots and lots of reports, and I've asked it to create a detailed report on the SME, distribution and manufacturing industry in the UK. Now, that's the space that we, technology management, try and work with. Those are our customers. So I'm saying, what does it look like as we go into 2026? And I've asked it to include some infographics because I think they're always useful in a report. And I want to visualize the numbers. And then I've asked it at the end, as you can see, how would deploying, Microsoft Dynamics, which is the products that we sell, how would that help assist with the issues that the industry is going on? So I've typed that in, and you could put a lot more detail than that. This is quite a basic prompt, but from a time perspective, I wanted to just show you what it can do. Now, this might be I want to generate a white paper that I'm going to distribute to or offer to opportunities that we're working with. Would this be of interest to them? That they can see the challenges they may be facing in 2026 and beyond, and we could put that white paper if we want to behind a gate, and so they've got to give us an email address, something to access it. In this instance, we're probably not. We're just going to generate a white paper and share it or stick it on LinkedIn, whatever you want to do. But you can see straight away as soon as I've hit that, the researcher comes back to me just as a good researcher that would be maybe in my team or we've employed or contracted. Comes back and starts asking me some questions. He says, "Well, okay, we understand you're asking for a detailed report on this. But before I begin, I'd like to clarify a few points. So, what type of size within the SME industries are you looking at? The real smallest of the small, the micro ones, small, medium, or the enterprise in SME? So probably up to, a few hundred employees. Or should I cover the full spectrum?" Then it asked me, should it focus on a geographical region? Are we looking at what this looks like for manufacturing and distribution in the West Midlands? Or are we not bothered about individual regions in the UK? And as an organisation that's just branched out, I ran something like this to see what the market looked like in Ireland when we opened up our offices over there. And it carries on. It says, are there any particular types of challenges you're interested in? Supply chain distribution, labor shortages. So it's looked at my prompts, and already it's putting a bit of context around that. It's pushing me to give it more information. And you can see there that it's asked a little bit about the products, the dynamics. Let me know your thoughts. So again, it says, do you want a short report, 1 to 5 pages or 5 plus? So I went back and I said, look, it would be for the mid to large size of the SMEs. So that's the organizations we typically target. And I want a dedicated section on the food sector because we do a lot of work with food. So let's actually have a section used purely for that. Again, it's going to allow us to, from a marketing perspective, to really push into those areas. And I have said, you know what, I hadn't really thought about having any regional context or regional view on the report. So I've said, look, it would be interesting to know if the different regions are going to be affected differently. So should we focus on maybe if it was the Northeast is doing very well or expecting to do well, should we be targeting more of our campaigns around that? So I've asked it to do that. Hadn't even considered that. So you can see how AI is prompting you and making you think a little bit differently. And then what the researcher does is it then starts working away, and we can click through on here and you can see all the what it's done, its thought process, its planning here, reports and the visuals and the context. But it goes through everything. You can see this taking place if you sit and watch it. We won't do that for now. Now this is on the normal Microsoft 365, so it's using GPT 2.5 at the moment. I'll explain what I'm on about there in a moment. If you've watched some of our other episodes, you'll notice or know that we talked about this little green shield that tells us our data is completely safe, nothing's going anywhere. So I've done all that. I haven't actually uploaded any information, but I could have put some documents that I think might help the report target for the type of information I want. So I could maybe put up something else, some reports we've already done or historically, or even some stuff about Business Central if I think it's going to get a better response. But I've let it go off on its own, so it is going off onto the web to do this. And you can then suddenly see that this is the report it's come back. It tells me that SMEs are currently under pressure. The food sector as well is under strain. It talks about some of the regional highs and lows, though it's summarized what it's done very quickly right at the top. And then it's starting to go down and give me an awful lot of information here. So it tells that it's a critical backbone of the economy. Manufacturers, SMEs account for 5% of all the UK business, but contribute 13% of business turnover. So it's quite interesting the information it's going. So lots of information. It's telling me where it's getting this information from if I want to sanity check it, which is always a good thing to do, especially if you're going to publicize this. But very quickly, we're starting to get a background around what it's doing. It then starts talking about the challenges, the cost pressures, the economic headwinds, the rapidly rising costs, as we all know, unfortunately, surging energy prices, etc., and the workforce and skill shortage that we know is happening in the UK. So there's a lot of information here, and I could keep scrolling down. I've actually dropped this into a Word document. At the end, you get the ability to do that. You'll notice the one thing it's not done a huge amount of in this instance is particularly clever or nice visualizations. There's a little graph there, but I don't think it's great. So it's put a little bit on there, but it's gone through on some of the KPIs and et cetera, and what it would do. Here's the regional section. So it's done everything I asked it to do. And at the end, you get the ability, do you want to push it into a PDF, PowerPoint, Word, infographic, et cetera. So I did push that into a Word document, which you can see here that it's then created it for me. Hasn't brought all the visualizations through, the 2 or 3 that were in there, but it's given me a document, which if I wanted to, I could then go through, make sure it's in the tone of voice of Techman, and then maybe push it out or share it with colleagues if that's in the turn document, or we could publicize it as well. But you can see there quite neat, and also how it's using a nice table view for how Business Central can help, how CRM can help, and the impact that it would have on compliance and regulation, supply chain traceability, et cetera, et cetera. So the challenges it's identified for the industry is then saying how these apps that we have can begin to help. So that's what we can generate from there, and that is a 23-page document. It's created for me very, very quickly. Now, one of the new things that's appeared in Copilot this in the last few weeks actually is that we have the ability with Microsoft not just to use the standard engine that it uses, but you can use different ones. So Claude is a very popular AI tool by a company called Anthropic. But you'll notice when I turn Claude on, because it's going to give me different response, and you might want to compare the two responses, is the Claude report better than the one that the ChatGPT 2.5 created? I've turned it on. You'll notice what happens then is the shield has now gone grey. So this is Microsoft warning us, and it does tell you when you turn Claude on that actually, you know what, we can't guarantee your data is not going to be used for the training of Claude's models in future, etc. So I know I'm not uploading any data here. I'm actually asking Claude in this instance to go out and do exactly the same report. You'll see the prompt is identical. I just cut and pasted it. So I'm not worried. I've not uploaded any of my data or customers' data up here, which would be a problem for me if I needed to make sure that didn't or wasn't used in any other area of the learning for the large language models. But there's a little hint just to let you know that that's when the green shield, if it goes grey or disappears, it's not guaranteeing you that you're on um, the normal protection that you get from Copilot. So again, it's asking me a few questions, very similar as it did before. And this time, though, Claude has come back with some different responses. And that's why I wanted to show you the difference between using these different models. Starts very similar. It gives me that. It gives me the executive summary at the top. Again, very, very similar to what we've seen already. But suddenly, Claude is giving me a lot more in terms of the visualizations that I want to use. So we can see here, it's giving me a breakdown of business by employee size. If I keep scrolling down, then critical challenges. So it's taken that data that was in the initial report and in this one, but it's visualized it for me. And for me, I much prefer that type of look and feel. So we can see skill shortages is a problem, energy price being volatile is up there as well at 52 percent of organizations struggling with that. So there's a lot more graphics here, and again, it's putting it, I would say, in a slightly nicer look and feel. I like this presentation better. I haven't read through the two yet, but you can actually put the responses back and ask, Copilot, which is the best one? Which one do you think's the best? And it won't always side with itself. It'll say, oh, actually, yeah, the one Claude's done is better. So you can look at that, ask some colleagues. We can see this has seemed to take a bit of a stance on what's going on with technological adoption and digital transformation as well, that China's got 322 robots per 10,000 workers. So again, it's interesting that the UK is way down on that. So again, it's giving us this information on there. And again, a lot more visualization in the Claude response, which I think is, for me, is what I would be looking for. But I wanted to highlight the differences you get from using these different large language models. But like I said, the trade-off might be that you don't can't use it if your data is going to be used. But I haven't uploaded anything here. It's purely gone out to generate the white paper for me. And so I could utilize this again. It's quite a long and detailed report. I could ask it to make it more detailed. I could ask it to look at the food sector, which we did, and maybe extend that a little bit. But you can see here, it's given me quite a lot of information. So there's something for me to do in my own time, is to review these and see which one I think is best, or am I going to smash them together and get a little bit of both. But I got a great little white paper within, what, 5 or 10 minutes, which I can then use for marketing, or for maybe sharing with organizations that might find this information really useful. So that's one way we can use the researcher tool. That's going out on the web, collating all the information and generating a white paper. The other thing I wanted to show you is how research works internally when you're looking at your data. So this is me again. I've got a different request this time. I've asked for an executive report. Now we run an event for all our customers. We call that BC Connect. We took place just over a month ago at the Midland Motor Museum. And so I've said, look, I want you to look at all my Teams messages, all my emails, OneNotes, anything that's within the TechMan, stored on the TechMan servers, so to speak, anything that I've got in our tenant. And I want you to go away and I want you to give me an executive report around the organization, the preparation for this, or the day we felt was a success. But I'm not going to look at that. How did we prep for it? Could we do it better next year? What was the feedback like? So again, a very, very basic prompt. I could really extend upon this and drill down, but for the purpose of the demo, I haven't. So create an executive report around the organization and preparation of our BC Connect Day at the Midland Motor Museum, as well as any feedback from the event. And again, researcher, as you'd expect a good researcher to do, asks me a little bit more. Would you like the report to include a timeline of key planning milestones? So again, looking back and reviewing how we did it, and maybe we want to improve upon that and it evolves. But yeah, that would be useful. Should I include details on logistics, venue bookings, catering, etc.? Or focus more on the strategic decisions and stakeholder involvement? Are you looking for internal team reflections or attendee feedback, or both? Should I include any metrics, KPIs, etc.? So I just went back and said, look, make it 5+ pages and include everything. So that was me being very lazy. But then away it goes, and you can see where it's starting now to give me this information of how it got this information. So it's looking at all different places. So it's exploring search results, noting external link references, if we've mentioned maybe the Motor Museum, but it considers messages from Teams, SharePoints, and blogs, looks at the venue details, BC Connect, it knows we're at the British Motor Museum. And so if I want to, I can read all of this. It's gone and looked at the feedback forms we got from our customers, and it started to collate all that information for me. So I can watch what it's done, and I can review this and make sure it's gone down the right way. It's searched for the key people that were involved in that event. So it's found that itself by looking at all the emails that were taking place, and that's where it's gone. And then it's generated me this executive summary or report. It tells us it was a 2-day customer event, the days it was taking place. We get a nice little infographic that actually the registrations are up nearly 18% this year, which was brilliant. We can then see the attendance, the sessions we delivered, the average feedback score, which is great, 4.7 out of 5. We get to see the timeline. He asked us, remember, on one of the questions, do we want the timeline? Yes, we do. We started preparing for this back in December 2024. Um, so as soon as the last one finished, we started working on this one. We were looking at venues and strategy. We looked at the agenda and some of the key sponsors that we use for this event, invitations going out in September, finalizing the content and logistics in October, comms and final prep, and then, of course, the event execution in the middle of November. And then we've got the feedback and how we did all of that. So we've got a nice little timeline. Then it starts going through the planning for day 2 and what we did. And what's nice is we can see all the data references, so we can see this was an engaged post. So we've obviously told our staff what's going on. There's a Teams message, a conversation that was taking place. There's a spreadsheet here with a planning document, as you'd probably expect, a couple. And again, that's where it's referencing all this information. We decided to have an LED screen, so it's pulled all this out without me telling it anything. It even knew the area of the Motor Museum, the Sky Suite that we were doing the keynote in. So it's gone away and it's found all of this. We've continued to make this a free event, so we're keen about that. We can see all the 8 ISV sponsors that were in attendance, and so on and so forth. But this is giving you an idea of what this does. It gives us a breakdown of the responsibilities, who in our team was responsible for certain areas, marketing and promotions, the operations and logistics, on-site execution, etc. And everything that you might want is on this. So from a great summary report, this would take me and the team, probably days to pull together to get all of this, and it's done it for me in a few minutes. It's found out some highlights, it's come through some immediate outcomes, and if I can find it, we can, yeah, here we go. We get some of the feedback from the customers that were there. There was some quotes if I can find them. There we go. I had a fantastic day. The talks were very useful. It was great for networking. Looking forward to attending next year. So there's some great feedback on there. It would have put negative as well, of course, if there was on there, but we might use some of those to market for next year's. And then it's come up with some key lessons that learned and recommendations for future events. So we knew there was a few bits and pieces from the feedback that came out we could do better. And it's telling me what that is. So again, that could go into a Word document, and I can then send it out to whoever needs to do that, whether it's the marketing team or the leadership team here at Techman. But that gives you an idea of, I think, what researcher can do. Very specific in what it wants. It's a much more deep dive either on your internal data, as we've seen with the executive report, or it's going out onto the web and generating you some content. It's a fantastic tool, and it is, as we said before, like having a researcher dedicated to your team available all the time to go away and just drill into that information and give us loads of great content that we can use for whatever you need it to do, not just from a marketing and sales perspective, but that's the way and the angle I've come from because that's my role. But I would definitely say if you're a paid up user of Copilot for M365, go and play with Researcher. Have a look at what you can generate from it. It is an incredibly powerful tool. And it's probably the one that I find, I won't say the most useful because that's not correct, but in terms of starting a campaign, starting a new project, to have that information. We could review maybe a project we've done for a customer. It's going through everything across everybody's inboxes that are involved with that, and it's going to pull a great report together, which I said would take days and days to do in this level of detail. Is doing it for a few moments. So absolutely recommend trying this. Try Claude as well, as long as your data is not so good. See which one you prefer. As more models come into Copilot, it's great to see that we're getting access to those. If you're not seeing the Claude option on yours, it does have to be turned on by admin because this option or availability of your data going somewhere else. So it wants an admin to say, "Are you sure you want to do this?" But if you read and see and take a sensible decision on it, it is giving you, I think, some better better responses in certain instances. Of course, as always with Copilot, you can add content, your own documents. You can look at sources and select a particular source for your research. If you know there's maybe a couple of very trusted sites that you want to use and nothing else, select them on there and point the researcher at it and say, go and look at this, just as you would do if you employed a researcher within your business. But I think for today, that's great. That's all we wanted to show you. I hope it's been of use. And hopefully next time it won't just be my voice droning on for 15, 20 minutes. But Ryan will be back with us. I hope he's fit and well and ready to join us, as you will, on the next edition of Tech Man Talks AI.